Good day and welcome to the first episode of the Italeri Cowboy build. As you see, here is the model you have all been voting for, the winner. It's, as I have told you, it's the vintage collection from Italeri where they released this kit exactly as it was in 1984. That means it comes with those plastic hollow wheels that they used in the 80s. I know not everyone likes them, but I'm going to use it exactly as it is out of the box. I built this kit when I was 16 years old. It was a fun build, and I will try this time to get it mostly the same as I did back then. I did not do anything else with it than paint it red. Back then I didn't even paint the frame. I'm gonna do that this time. And I bought it along with a trailer, and the trailer will come also, but I don't think I will make a tutorial of it. Maybe I will if you ask me to. The Cowboy was originally a very strange truck for European standards because it had a lot of American stuff added onto it. I have seen some of you comment that it had chrome stacks and you don't believe it did. Well, it did. It even has a chrome grille, chrome bumper. There was a lot of chrome on it actually. And what they have done with this that I don't believe what they did the original release was make many of the other parts in chrome. I can't remember that I built it in with a chrome bumper or grille. This one will be built. The box itself, it's a very nice box. Most of you have seen it. Here you see the plastic wheels that I told you about. These comes in halves that you glue together later on, and I will use them. The kit itself, some parts are packed into plastic. You are not going to use the interior parts or the chrome parts in the start of the build. Just put them away. Make sure they are not being damaged. Same with the wheels. They come later on. Instruction you are going to need. And this thing, the frame for the cab, it is wise to put it away in a manner that it doesn't get dusted down. I will explain why later. Here comes the frame and some engine parts. These are possibly the only frames we are going to use in this edition. Here are some air and diesel containers. I am not sure whether we're going to use this, so I just put it away for a while. Push, away it goes. Same with windows. Do not take them out of the bag before you're going to use them, because you're just going to end up scratching them, and that's no cool. So here we have it. First stuff. First instruction part. Here are the stickers. Well, actually not stickers, decals is more right. On the first page you will always see marked off the things that you are not going to use. You can do whatever you want with them. Some prefer to scrap them off so they are not in the way. I don't care, I just let them stay. So, first page is always the frame. At least with Italeri kits and most Revell. The frame of a truck is the essential part, so we are just going to keep it like that. And also, I forgot to mention, get something to cut on. You don't want to use these with just bare fingers. That's gonna hurt. You're gonna have to get your wife or your husband to drive you to the hospital. They do cut deep. I have tried. Well, should we get started? As you know, can see it, the rear cross member is sticking stuck here. I have glued it shut. There are these little grooves that you see it should be placed in, and we're gonna cut off the rest of them. There are 3 more, and we have to make one, the front one. I'm cutting all the members off and trying to remember what number did I have. This is number 3. Yet again, I cut off the excess plastic, taking the file, and give it a little rub. You can see, it looks pretty good. These 2 parts are going to be glued together. They will be the front bar. You can see there's a slight different side on them. One side is blank and you see it together. These make a bar with a tow hook. The one if the truck should stop for any kind of reason, this is where you tow them. And since it's an Italian truck, of course it will stop. Add some glue. Try not to use too much, but at the same time you don't want to use too little of it, because then it just cracks open. Make sure that you get the right sides sticking, because there might be a difference. And this looks perfect. A typical rookie mistake is to take these halves. You can see that there's a bend, and if you put this one upwards, you kind of fucks up, because this one is of course giving room for the drive shaft. Some prefer to place the glue on the shafts. I don't. Sometimes I have to do it, of course, but if I can't place them on the frame, it gives me a better angle to work with. I have cheated a little and glued all the cross members in the space on the one side of the frame, and I am now ready to get the other half stuck. Oh, okay, wouldn't lie that way. We put it on top. Here you can see how it should be right now. This is pretty strong, and it will of course be a lot more stronger when the other side is glued shut also. And that one we're gonna cut now. Adding those two frames shouldn't be much of a problem really, because I've made sure that everything is aligned. As the glue fastens, try to check out that everything is straight, because that will make this part so much easier. Always make sure that you get these ones sitting the right way, because it can be easy to turn them around and suddenly you realize that they aren't the same both ways. As you see, these are pretty stuck now. There's no way I can tear them off. To add some glue. It's been a long while since I used this testers, as I said, and now I remember why. I don't really like the tip. I might actually go over the next part and use the weld, because, well, this is good for its stuff, but not this stuff. It's on this kit, it's... Oh, I forgot something. Would you look at that? This kit I will prefer to start on this end, because it has a square tap that goes into the front cross member. The rest should just fall into place. Falls off instead. I think no matter how much you build, this will always be a bit where you fumble a little. Make sure every cross member falls into its place. You always have some time to snug them in, and check from the top that you, until you're satisfied. Remember, if you don't do this correctly, if you leave someone crossed, you will always notice afterwards, because these parts will of course be open when the truck is mounted. Another thing I noticed, I remember when I built this kid several years ago, all this plastic was molded in brownish reddish, some brown color, and that's more true to the nature of which color the frame had for real. This one, as you can see, is black. They did not come from the factory in real life in black. I think I'm happy with it, and I will just let it cure. Next thing will be the leaf springs. As you can see on the instruction, there are just 4 parts. It's pretty easy because the holes are already made. And it's just to glue them in place, one by one. This part, I advise you to take just one part of the sprue. Don't take them all at once, because then you mix them up and you don't remember which one was going in which corner, and then your truck will look quite funny. Here you see one of the rear leaf spring cut off. I have taken off every excess bit of plastic. Looks clean. But when these sprues go into when they are made, they always leave this little edge down here. I don't like to see it, so I take one file and just rasp it away. Simple as that. That's good enough. Always, always, always test fit before you glue it into place. It might be that it doesn't go any other way, and as you see on this one, there is just only 2 holes, but it might be the holes ain't big enough. See, this one fits without a problem, and then I can glue it. I'll also leave a little tap there. It's important that this part, when it's done, it's actually pretty solid, because the weight of the truck will of course be resting on this. And we'll let it cure. Simple as that. 3 more to go. Last one of the leaf springs. Taken 3 of them on now. Cut a little to the base so you don't have to wash all the boring stuff. So far I'm pretty happy about how it sticks. I can see some places that I'm not happy about this glue that I chose for this work. I am actually going to say that I don't recommend it for a beginner. Get this one instead. That tip is absolutely everything. So now I have tried that. Don't do it yourself. Same procedure with the last one. You have to be a little careful with the front one, because there's always more holes on the front of the frame. Had this been triple axle truck, there would be a little more dense here with more stuff, shorter leaf springs, but there isn't. So here it goes. I have of course checked from before that the right holes are these 2. If I get the glue placed wrong, there's no real trouble, just don't get it stuck there. But if the glue dries in the wrong hole and you haven't fastened anything, it's okay, you can fix that afterwards. But of course try not to make what we call a glue bump with too much excess glue everywhere. We now have a complete frame. Cross members are on. Leaf springs are on. And this didn't take much long time. The more tricky bits are the axles, and the front axle is always a little more tricky. You have the choice to make it either able to steer or just go for it and glue it shut. I will try to make it able to steer, but that involves a few more components of tools. We are actually going to need a candle and a screwdriver. The instructions do guide a little, and I know it looks a bit scary, and there is a few parts here and it's gonna get really tiny, but trust me, you can do it. You know what, guys, I'm giving this up. It made a mess back here, and it doesn't really shut it. I haven't been using this glue for a long time, and as I said earlier, I remember why. So it's going for the retire bin for I see some places I can use it, but this is not it. I will have to find a solution to fix myself some more glue. So, back in a bit. Woohoo, I'm back. I didn't manage to find a tube, but this is stuck. And then we have to do another trick. You might as well learn it right away. It involves matches, fire, and it might just sound a bit dramatic, but it isn't. Heat up the tube, just the metal, not the plastic, and it's done. I read a comment some time ago on a Facebook page for model builders that this was ruining the tube. I did ask for a answer of why it did ruin the tube. Of course, I didn't get an answer to that. It doesn't ruin anything. Just be careful what you splatter this thing on. Don't point in the direction of paper or the model. I have once done it against a ready painted model, and I wasn't really happy afterwards. Right, I said I was going to use some pyrotechnics like a candle and some matches and a screwdriver, and that's what we're going to do now. I just light this up so it's ready. Put it there. We are going to do the front axle first, and as I said, I wanted to make it steerable. And that involves some action with melting plastic. The front axle is off. Get off the excess plastic here. I rather work this more than needed over leaving any plastic rim left on it, because that edge will not look good when you paint this. Of course, no one is going to look underneath it so much, but still, I know it's there. The front axles on most Italeri kits that I have built are exactly the same structure. There might be some differences on the later one, but I haven't seen them, thus I imagine they aren't that different either. Please correct me if I'm wrong. This is very important that you get the right parts on each side, because otherwise this hole will not be in the right position for where you want things to be glued. And decide which side you should start on first. I have a trick on this one, but I really don't want to explain it because it's harder to explain than to do. Thus, I'm pretty sure that you'll find out your own trick after you have done it a couple of times. And if you are going to build more than one model, you will do it a couple of times, because, as I said, they are all the same on this part. I haven't built any AMT kits in a long while, so I can't vote for them. But I suspect they aren't that different on this part either. I will cut off all the parts needed for the one side. And here you have to be a little careful, because these are fragile and will snap if you use too much force. If they snap, there's no reason to throw the kit in the bucket, but you have kind of settled that the steering will be glued shut. So taking off the excess. The excess plastic can be a bit tricky to remove from these little round parts. But with patience, everything works. Be sure to note the slight angle on these. Make sure it points the right direction. And also that the axle points in the right direction. This will be wrong because here are the studs for the dampers. I think it's the dampers at least. This side, this one is going on top, or actually will be on the bottom when we are finished, but right now it's on the top. And you don't need to align this right away, because this will be easy. I have to tell you, this is much better. Point both the point and get the right amount. Just hook it on. With a finger, hold it from underneath. Of course, first do put on some glue. I prefer to, on the last part on every side, I take glue on the fastener itself. Glue stuck in, just do this. Part of the game. Make sure it's tight with your fingers. When this is done, you might just get the clocks for the brakes on right away. Saves you time afterwards. These Italian trucks takes 2 on each side. When you study the Facebook groups and other builds, you will see that not many, but some make brake lines and everything. It looks cool. It's not that hard, but don't care about that right now. I will get back to that later on another time. One side has cured, then we can start on the next one. Once more, cutting off all the parts needed for the one side. And that's really easy now because now there is only one set of parts. I'm taking the clocks for the brakes first this time, because it kind of fumbled up on me while getting behind the steering rods. Other than that, it doesn't really matter. And there. Both sides done. Check the alignment, looks good. And let it cure for a bit. If you have done anything wrong, this is the time to make it right. Double check all the time. You won't be able to fix anything afterwards. And you don't want to break these parts off, because you might just as well get new parts. Or glue them shut with a non-steerable. In the meantime, while that cures, we can cut off the link rod for steering. There it is. And then we are going to melt some. It might seem not very important, but it is. You can of course glue it, don't glue, mount it this way, but that would be wrong, and you will see why later on. The instruction gives you the direction of from top to like this, from top to bottom like this. And now comes the fun part. We can't glue this. You can of course if you want to, but then it will not steer. Here comes the candle. And you have to get a flat screwdriver, preferably a small one like this, but this was all I could find because someone has been messing around in my toolbox shed. I'm not blaming anyone, but it wasn't me. Or maybe it was. I don't remember. Anyway, put the screwdriver over the candle and be a little careful because this can be hot. I prefer to use this kind of candle because when it relaxes on the side of the wax, it will of course start to melt into it when it's hot enough. Like this. And then you take the flat warm side on the top where the glass top comes through. It's better to take many attempts rather than jumping all in. It sits. Same procedure on the next side. He did a little more, not too much. Just tap it in. Good enough. Now it steers. Usually I jump to the next part where I get stuck on the truck. That rhymes. But not this time. I'm gonna take the last axle first. I can tell right away that I'm not actually pretty happy with the fit of this, because the alignment is is pretty crap. I can't remember if this was an issue on the first kit I built back in when the dinosaurs walked the earth, but this kind of looks bad. I don't know if you can see it, but well. It is what it is. I'm not going to make a whole lot of mess of this kit because I'm trying to do it as easy as possible. We might have to take some mistakes and just accept them. Especially when they're not we making the mistakes. Here we'll be sitting. I'll just let it relax there while I build the rear axle. Just removing a little of the marks after the insertions. Good enough. There it is. Clamp it a little. Some like to use clamps sitting on for a while, but I don't because it's really not that necessary. Just let it lie around and cure. Will be good in a few minutes. Now the rear axle has some time to cure. And we're going to put on the last parts of it. Again, I cut off all the parts for one side at a time, just to save myself from having to put it back and forth, cutting off and most of the parts are actually the same for both sides. If I just could find it. Ah, there it is. I just twist them off because these are so easy to fix. Again, you might see some guys making brake lines. I do it myself several times, but we're not going to do that. It just takes a whole lot of time, and you really don't need it if you're just going to display them. It's not necessary to make a nice model. We are going to do this fun and easy. As a real Italian truck, it's really true for its original, because most things are a tight fit. But that's okay. Never be afraid for a little challenge. Trim nice and easy. You can try to do it the other way this time. Placing this first. Either trick is right or wrong, you can do it like this also. If placing small parts is a problem, you can get this magnifiers that kind of look like glasses You place them on the head and see through them. No, some of you are not too eager to start building because eyesight is getting worse. But there are tricks to overcome that too. And of course, if you just want to build, who says you have to have the smaller parts that no one sees there anyway? Just build, do what you can do. Now both rear and front axle are ready. See, this one steers. And you might notice that I still have the candle burning. It proves really well because I have to open this one all the time. I don't know why it gets stuck all the time. It's just how it is. Don't be afraid to open it with an open flame. Just be careful about how much open flame you use, of course. But yes, there are some few steps that has to be melted. Of course, if you are happy with how this is right now, you don't have to melt the other parts, because this one will hold the wheels and it will look okay as a kit. But I'm going to show the whole way through. But we are finished on the first page of the model. Step 1 and 2 are done. Some guys might prefer to tag off all these numbers after you have placed them, just to remind yourself that this one is done. That's pretty smart. I have used to do it myself sometime, but I don't anymore. But it's a smart trick. Next step is number 3. That's the placing of the axles, and you see there is a few more parts coming on. The ride suspension and yeah, a little more fun parts. When this is done, the engine will be the next part, and that will be the next lesson, because we are going to do a few more things with the frame before the engine is put in. And when I show you, you will see how logical it really is. It's not taken much time to finish this frame. I am sure that as experienced as I am now, I can do this in half an hour with no problem getting all finished. It's no hard task getting up in that speed, but that's not the point. The point is to enjoy it and have fun. So don't be a speed builder just to be a speed builder, unless that's your kind of fun. Just make sure that you actually get it right. Anyway, the frame is done and the axles are done. I will just start with the rear axle because there aren't that many parts going for it. Test fit, of course, I almost forgot. And by all means, don't mount it the wrong way, because you are still going to have a drive shaft into it. That looks good, no hassle at all. The nitpickers will always comment that there is a seam after I have been gluing this shut. You can of course sand it down. You don't really have to. There is no point in doing that unless you are going to build a real show truck, because it will not be seen afterward when I'm finished with the primer. Just don't let it have too much of a gap. or any gap actually. It shouldn't be a gap. The rear axle is now on. Let it cure for a moment before I put down the last part. I can just as well put down the front axle. Fits perfectly. Get on glue. It's important that you have enough glue. Don't overdo it, of course, because then it will just use a whole lot of time to cure. And yes, there are seagulls you're hearing outside. I live just a few hundred meters from the fjord. And since we are in northern Norway, there is no such thing as a dark hour during the summers, so the birds are always up. But it's nice. One learns to like it. That's how it looks with all the axles on. It's really no matter if you let it cure upside down or this way, because it helps with its own pressure. Now see there's a little flex in it, but doesn't matter. We will fix that afterwards. It's not that much. But I'm still going to do the chambers for the rear axle first, just because it's easiest. With a little thud on the brake, it comes off. If you can hear the music, I'm not actually sure. I haven't checked off if it's loud enough. But for the few hours I've been doing this, I have been listening to an American artist named Sam Outlaw. I just heard him a couple of days ago for the first time. And it's very good. It's country in a way I think Nashville should have been sounding. But it don't, because most Nashville artists today doesn't make country, they make some weird pop music. Shame on them. That's actually pretty funny when I learned the fact that this artist, Sam Outlaw, actually is from California, Los Angeles. there with minimal fuss. Looks great. But now it looks great. And then it's just the shock absorbers. As you see, I didn't test fit, but I like to live dangerously. There. With some fiddling. But fiddling is part of the game. Keep in mind, this hobby would not be cool or fun or worth doing if it wasn't a challenge. If everything was to just fall into place, then it wouldn't be model building, but toys. There. There's the front axle with some more parts. The rear one. First we are going to do the strut towers. That was practically loose already. Well, we have had a little power shortage. I'm still learning, and the battery wasn't going to stay as long as I was hoping it would. But that's okay. I'll learn. Well, we were working on the front suspension, and I'm taking off some parts. This is the sway bar for the front. I'll just make it ready to test a little, but it's not the exact parts that we are going to mount first. First we are going to do the spring towers. Or strut towers, if you want to call them that. The good part about this is, even though there are a few parts going into it, they are all the same. So you are actually going to build two of the same units. Or I am. Just to put them next to each other. have to admit, doing this I feel a little like well-known Mr. James May while he does his show. I just wish I have had the same camera crew as then this would be probably a whole lot more interesting and, well, better. But I'm trying. Here you see the main part of the suspension strut. I don't know why they have cut it open, so you have to glue the other half of the spring itself, but it is what it is. I'm gonna do a little cleanup first here. Oh. There it is. One strut tower. You see, even though it has a few parts and they're small, it doesn't take much time to get it together. It's never impossible. But as I have mentioned already, and I will say it several times during this tutorial, always, always, always test fit until you are sure. By doing that, you reduce the chance of being frustrated and giving up on the whole ordeal. Make sure before you attempt to glue it shut, because if you do it wrong, there will be too much of a mess to clean up sometimes. And then you get what we call a glue bump. And, the whole point here is that I'm going to show you how to not make a glue bump. And there, 2 struts ready. And those will be of course. Looks good, if I may say so myself. And then there are just 3 parts left. Okay, that's turning dangerous. I realized that I didn't present you with a tweezer in the beginning of the video. Let me use this opportunity to tell you how much you are going to need a pair of tweezers. I use this from Tamiya that is bent and long, because it gives good grip, it gives me the ability to twist if I need to do it, and well, they are long. And size is everything sometimes. Besides that, the frame is now done. This is the basic frame. Next part will be the engine itself. But before we do the engine, we are going to do a little something called primer. And the primer is important before you put on the paint. I myself use Tamiya's grey primer. They have several other colors, and I will explain for you the reason why there are different colors. But for framework and most truck stuff, really, I use the grey primer. I will talk more about paint in the next tutorial episode, because it's really important to understand that paint is not difficult. Sorry. We are going to do it with rattle cans, no airbrush. Airbrush is a little more advanced than I want you to both invest and think about right now. Forget about that. Rattle cans is okay. We are going to make a nice metal out of just rattle cans. If you are going to follow my build and build it yourself, I hope you will find good use in what I just showed you. This is not the hard part of all the parts we are going to go through. The steering bit is the only thing that requires a bit more thinking than just gluing things shut if you are going to make a steerable. There's nothing wrong with just gluing it shut if you just want to do that. If you do what you feel comfortable with. And that said, this truck, it's a Fiat from Italeri, but you can go and buy a Volvo, buy a Renault, buy a Scania, and it would just be much the same as you saw me do this time. The same goes with the American trucks from Italeri. There aren't that much of a difference. That's where I leave you for this time. We conclude with the frame being done. In this manual we have come to page 3. There's still more left to do. And by all means we are not done with the frame. But the important things are finished. Thank you for watching. I hope you find this useful, and I hope I'm able to learn you something. I'm still learning myself. So that's the fun part of it, in my opinion. Bye bye.